All right, it is recording now. All right, Zoom instructions. Please say your name before speaking and before making a motion. Board members are required to state their location during the roll call. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. This is *6 if you're on the phone. Do not click unknown links that may be shared in the Zoom chat. The township does not disseminate information with this function. The meeting is being recorded. Please be respectful of those speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disruptive to the point of preventing the park commission from conducting business, you'll get one warning before being removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with Zoom, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same meeting information. If the meeting is unable to continue, a notice will be issued on the township Facebook page and website. Reminder to commission members that emailing or texting is not allowed during a public meeting. Please be patient as we're all learning Zoom, and we will attempt to be as deliberate as possible. All right. There you go, Jim.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. I don't have a clock in front of me.
6:03.
6:03. And we'll do the roll call. Jim Searing, I'm at home in Saugatuck Township.
Dana Bird, I'm at Schultz Park in Douglas at a ball game.
Lori Gosthorn, Saugatuck Township.
Okay.
Best parks meeting location. By the way, being at a ballpark.
Yeah, well, might be quite a few.
Who's taking notes, Jim?
Well, Erica was, but was supposed to, and she told me she would make it. So it's probably easiest for me to take it because, so I'll do that. I'll keep track of the notes, and then I'll send you a draft, send you and Lori a draft, and before I send it to Joe. Public comments. I notice we have Richard Kirk here. Richard?
Hi, thank you. It took me a second to unmute my mic. I have no comments. I'm probably just going to sit and watch this evening, but thank you for asking.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yep.
And does anybody have any additions or corrections?
I'd motion to approve the agenda.
I second it. Now, Joe, I never remember. Do we have to take a roll call on all the votes?
Yep.
Okay. Jim, yes.
Dana, yes.
Lori, yes.
Okay. The next item is the approval of our last meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read those?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd motion to approve the minutes.
I second. Dana,
Yes.
Jim, yes.
Lori, yes.
Okay. So we've approved the minutes. Next item is our bills. That's on our financial report, and it looks like we spent $530 this past month.
I do want to note for you commissioners that you will see here on the items that were paid for is the 530, but then it was the quarterly payroll for the commissioners, which is the 6,000. And so there was a total of $1,130.82. So I just want to note that for you.
I had a question. We used to get a report showing the donations from the dog park, and that hasn't been present for the last couple meetings. And I think it's, if nothing else, fun to see, especially since the last amount that I dropped off at the office was $217.
Wow,
Mm-hmm,
Cool.
that's great.
yeah,
We can get that in there, part of the budget and stuff.
yeah, I think, you know, well, I know less is more, less is less in this case.
Lori Babinski usually keeps that list. Joe, would it be a problem to add that to our monthly report so we have an idea?
Yep.
Of course, the dog park donation box is broken, so
Yeah,
we'll have to talk about that in a minute.
So we have, sorry, Jim, just a comment. So through the end of June, we have 3,500 left in the budget and we're entering mowing season, right? So do we feel, I mean, I didn't look historically if that's an adequate amount to handle mowing and bills through the end of July, or do we want to look into that and report back at the next meeting if we think that's going to be close, or I don't know how Joe wants to handle that, or.
so there would be only 2 months left within this fiscal year. So
Okay.
they came out once. I could only see 1 or 2 more mowings within this. so
Okay.
it wouldn't be a whole lot.
Great.
Yeah, it's been pretty dry.
Mhm.
Yeah,
At least at my house.
I mowed our lawn here at my house and there was nothing really to mow. I just did it just because I got bored.
Right,
Mhm.
okay. Any other questions about the bills?
Nope.
Okay, the budget report. I guess that's what we just covered, where, the $3,500 that we have left. Old business, none. New business is that map that was included, and that's the mowing or the brush hogging at the dog park. I have a couple comments about that. Coincidentally, about 3 days ago, I got a letter or an email from a woman who had moved here from northern New Jersey. Interesting, I grew up in northern New Jersey, so I know exactly what she's talking about. She was talking about the problem of mow and blow. In that area, everybody's got a pristine lawn. They mow it and then they blow stuff around. The same thing happens where my daughter lives in South Carolina. They mow it, then the guy comes by and blows the stuff out of the street. And then afternoon, the guy comes by and blows the stuff back in the street. Anyway, what she was concerned about were some wildflowers that she had found in the area. She didn't want to tell me where they were because she said they were quite rare. They're actually a little more common around here than I think she realized. But her point was, she was asking me if it's possible to protect some of these areas without making it a park. And I sent this to email to Becky, and she was going to talk to the lady and see what they could talk about. But that prompted me to go for a walk at the dog park this afternoon. And so let's talk about the brush hogging. I have no problem, and it seems reasonable to clean up along the entrance and then along the road that goes into the dog park. The first question I had, Joe, is just past the gate, there's a whole pile of logs and brush that was dumped there. The thing I'm concerned about is if we open that up as a trailway like John Vanderbrink wants to do, people will see that stuff there and think, well, this is a township property, maybe that's a brush dump. And would they dump brush here? Even though it's on the other side of the gate, if I had a pickup load of brush, I'd back up to the gate, pull it off, and then drag it under the gate and throw it on the pile. So the gate itself wouldn't be a deterrent, at least for me. Is moving that pile part of the plan?
So I did talk to Glenn about that pile because when I walked around and looked at things, when I got here, noticed that pile too, Jim. And currently that pile is where all like the brush from the cemeteries go, and that's just where it's been. But going forward, we'll not be putting it there because I know you guys have been talking about making trails there, and that's a little unsightly. So the tentative plan is for this winter that brush would be taken out into the middle of the field and burned or gotten rid of somehow. And then the brush would be stored somewhere else on township property. So it will clean that up, but it doesn't include in this current project that's before you.
Okay.
So
Is-
I have something that I've prepared that I would like to read, because I wanted to make sure to get all my thoughts. And it directly relates to the brush hogging, but it also talks about the dog park. And I started out by looking online to see what information is out there regarding the dog park. And on Facebook, somebody is maintaining a place for people to post comments. And a year ago, out-of-town visitors said, very nice, clean park with lots of shade for the 3 of my dogs to run. We will be back, thank you. And another person said, we love this dog park. We've made so many friends and love the setup and the fenced-in area for hiking. Again, on another place, countyoffice.org rates this as the 3rd popular dog park in Michigan of 37. And I'm guessing nationwide, or I'm not sure what the scope is, but 100, dog number 154 in another rating. And then on wagwalking.com, it's got a very nice comment which talks about the amenities, but it also says within the park is a nice trail to take a stroll with your dog as you take in the beauty of nature all around you. It's an ideal way to spend the day outside on those summer days with your 4-legged friend, enjoying the nature, picnicking and frolicking in the fields. This park is a slew of never-ending dog fun. So in perusing Facebook postings and hearing firsthand testimonials from visitors, it is clear that this is a very popular and well-used dog park. Much of what people tell me is that the best part is the tree cover, the naturalness of the space, and that it is all about the dog. They aren't looking for a city park with manicured surroundings. However, in March, Jacqueline Carey, who is a local resident, states on Facebook, quote, hey, local peeps, just over 2 weeks to vote for our favorite project to win the $1,000. Lots of great projects, but I'm voting for improvements to the Tails and Trails Dog Park. Our latest rescue is a runner, and it's awesome to have the fenced space where she can roam. It would be even more awesome if the trails weren't underwater in wet weather. So in other words, the chips need to be applied, the fence is in need of overall work, the gates need to be adjusted, and the donation dog needs lock repair. All of these projects have been stalled and need to resume full force for the park to remain a safe, beautiful, and popular place for the dogs to run. What is not needed is beautification. The road is a dead end and the traffic is only to the dog park. There is no good reason why we should brush hog the surrounding area. First of all, this will be something that will need regular maintenance and appears quite costly. The figure close to $850 would better be spent on the aforementioned repairs and improvements. 3, the area is home to many different wildflowers and presents a spectacular view of the richness of this naturalized area. And 4, many birds, insects, and other wildlife rely on the undeveloped area for undisturbed habitat. Instead, I would like to suggest that we look at regularly occurring jobs that can be delegated to Joe so they can be kept up on a scheduled basis. Number 1, the driveway should be graded minimally every spring and fall, possibly even quarterly. Number 2, the gate should be readjusted minimally every spring. Number 3, the trail should be chipped minimally every other year. Number 4, the fencing should be inspected annually for repairs by someone experienced in fence installation and repair. It is the Parks Commission's duties to be good stewards of the parks and keep them in the best possible working order for each type of park the township has. These responsibilities, though not numerous, still carry the weight of the public, which voted us into office. As such, I ask you to deny this unnecessary destruction and say no to brush hogging.
Okay. Yeah, I questioned if you look at the diagram, that area, the long stretch that heads to the north, that area is pretty clear. I see no reason why that would have to be cleared or mowed. The same thing with the area, that triangle, which is just north of the parking lot. That seems okay. And it's before you get to the gate. Now, the thing that we would have to consider is at some point, if that trailhead develops into a popular area, we might have to expand the parking lot. That might be the logical place that we would have to do it.
Yeah, and I see moving the brush piles and maybe chipping them and using them in the trails and things. But I don't see any need for that destruction of those forested naturalized areas.
Right. What do you feel? What's your feeling about the entrance, to clean up the entrance a little bit to improve visibility? And I realize it's a dead end road, but
the only traffic that is coming is from, as you're exiting from the left. Nobody goes to the electric business across the street except for employees. I have never left the dog park and had trouble seeing, and there has never been anybody blocking my way for coming. I just get more and more comments on how pretty it is and how naturalized it is. And I think people move to townships, not for city parks, but for more naturalized experiences like state parks and our parks, which have some areas for extended use like River Bluff. But I really don't see any reason. People come, they offload their dog, they go into the park, the dog runs around and they enjoy the park space. I just see absolutely no good reason for this. And if we're worried about having enough money to do all these other projects that need to be done so that the park continues to function, this is an unnecessary expense, in my opinion. And it doesn't really solve any problems. It avoids looking at those that remain and that are getting worse and worse as time goes on.
Okay, Dana, your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Lori a little bit. I haven't been to the dog park in a little bit. I think it's probably a balance of, if you drive your car in, you don't want to risk like racking branches along the side of your car when you come in the driveway, right? But we do want to preserve that natural feel. And we've talked a lot about how do you maintain the fence lines in there. And I think, like, of all the things we've talked about, it seems like making sure that those fences, especially in the wooded areas, are secure should be a priority. And I don't know if part of that is making sure we have a path to get there with equipment you need to build the fence, or I haven't looked into it enough, but I think just brush hogging to widen it out, I'm not super supportive of that. If it's to the point that it's hitting trees, as cars come in and out, we should definitely look at keeping that cut back. But I'm not sure it's something, like Lori's saying, we got other things we'd like to see done out there. And unless it's to the point where, people are at risk of branches brushing their car when they're using the parking lot or the driveway, maybe we want to take a second look at that.
Okay. I said that Joe and I talked and we decided we would vote on this. If we would do this, or we would talk about the list that Lori presented. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay, Dana? No, we're voting. I make a motion that we do not do any brush hogging at the dog park at this time. So do you support that motion?
I would second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
You have to do a roll call, Jim.
Yeah, Lori,
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Okay, Jim, aye.
Thank you.
So we won't do the brush hogging. However, should we do some of the things that Lori mentioned? And I think, Joe, I did include a number of those things in the list that I sent you. Do we want to just pick what we think is most urgent? I would say the wood chips and cleaning up the trail a little bit. There's that 6-inch pipe that needs to be buried. That's just laying across the trail. The purpose of that is to transfer water from 2 little wet areas so it doesn't run across the trail. That could be buried with not a whole lot of effort, and that spot is low. I looked at it again today, and it's been really dry, so there's only a couple really wet areas out there. But what do you think about that? If we take that $800 and put that towards wood chips and repairing the trail in the,
Well,
go ahead.
Is that coming out of our regular maintenance
Yeah,
money then, park maintenance?
yeah, that's $800. That's correct, right, Joe?
Yeah,
That
so
would
this would just come, this was, when I talked to Glenn about it, was just normal maintenance stuff because it has been maintained in the past. And one of the things that you guys have mentioned is to continue maintaining the fence. The idea of, it's just normal maintenance with brush hog, but I'm fine if you don't want to do it right now. In this upcoming budget, since we only have 1 month left, there's not a whole lot of time to wrap things up, which goes into your next item. But most of the stuff that Lori mentioned is funded in the next budget. So there's $2,000 that's set aside just for trail maintenance at the dog park. So
why is that not able to be spent until next fiscal year? Because this is March and I'm finding postings that, these trails are wet, they're messy. We talked a couple meetings ago about getting the chips down. And I understand that you don't want to use a cut above because they haven't paid their taxes, but I feel like we're kicking this stuff down the road. And now if there's no money for it, that's allowed to be spent now for things that that we've been waiting. We've been trying to get this done since before Griffin left.
Well, Lori, are there certain areas right away, like you could go out there and say this needs wood chips, that needs wood chips, and if so, Glenn has a giant pile of wood chips. Can we just have him go do that with this?
Well, the whole area needs it, but the most desperate area is probably along the edge where the gate for them to be brought in is, because that's got some of the lower areas.
So Lori and the rest of the board, in our current fiscal year, you still have, you take think about like $1,500 possibly would be left over at the end of the year, just kind of rough estimating. If we spent, $1,100, that would be almost what we'd have. So you can do some projects, but by the time something gets ordered and whatnot, however, the additional $2,000 And let me back up. You can still do that stuff within this fiscal year, but accounting wise, I have to account for something when it happens in the transition from one fiscal year to another. I can't account for it because there was money over here because it goes back to the general fund. Now, in this upcoming fiscal year, I made sure that there was just a block of money that is in addition to your normal stuff within this, like on this amended budget for this current year was 16,300. It's about 17,000 something for next fiscal year. So there's additional funding within the parks budget to do more projects going forward. So as the board, you can, if you instead of wanting chips and you want to put $2,000 worth of new fence up, well, fine, put $2,000 worth of new fence up. I just put it in there and it's just noted that it's for the dog park in particular. So things can be moved. We're just talking about budget items because of the fiscal year change.
Well, hey, Jim, do you think we can just move on from that then and then prioritize a list of items in the next year's budget? That's already in the budget. We'll just prioritize what we want done then and have plenty of time to plan it out.
Right.
Get it done.
And we've only got the rest of May and June, and we'll be into the next fiscal year. And when we get to this last item, item E, it sort of fits together with this checklist thing. So why don't we just, we voted not to do the work, the brush hogging. Joe, I think you said it, and any money left over, you'll transfer to 408 to preserve it. Do you want to go ahead and take is everybody okay with that?
With what? Which?
So your next agenda item is end year fund transfer. So currently, there isn't any funds that are utilized within the parks department. It automatically reverts back to the general fund because it's in the general fund. But I thought and was talking to Jim is for some of those long-term projects would be to request that any funds, which here's the motion on the screen in order to do this, is request that any funds not used in the parks department be transferred to the parks capital project fund. So if there's $2,000, $1,500, whatever it is, that little bit goes in as kind of a help grow things for long-term projects because you didn't use it this year.
Yeah, so if we're moving on to that agenda item, I think we talk about it every year, like how do we, use it or lose it, and this would help, avoid that kind of trying to come up with projects as we think of at the end of the year, that maintenance fund. So I would support that motion if somebody wants to make it.
Well, hang on. I have a question. I understand that instead of letting it go back to the general fund, we're now creating a parks fund. How would this be used and how difficult would it be to access these funds for things that are necessary, that are considered menial small projects? And what are we envisioning this for?
So a capital fund is for for example, the roof that you guys repaired the other day, that was like 10 grand. It came out of this fund. It's for those large scale projects. So if you want to put new fencing up or whatever, that's what it's for. It's to grow a fund for large projects.
Okay, and I understand that, but I guess I get back to the point that we have, every time I go to the dog park, I notice more areas where the fencing is failing, especially in between the dog park and the main area and the the forested area. And we have to get the lock fixed on the donation dog because people come and take the money. People continue donating because they don't know it's broken. Somebody figures it out and they take the money. A lot of people are
There's a
giving
sign
20.
now.
Pardon me?
There's a sign on the dog.
Well, that's fine, but still, it needs to be fixed.
I think
The fencing needs
I
to
just
be
want to
fixed.
note that.
Can I ask my question? So my question is, why are we leaving these things unfixed? Just so we can start growing funding right now?
So Lori, at the end of the fiscal year, if there's nothing used, it goes, it stays in the general fund. So it doesn't perpetuate and grow.
I understand, but you're not answering my question though.
But transferring it from asking the board to transfer whatever, if there was $200 at the end of the year and just move it to this fund, it's just to help grow it. So are you familiar with the program Acorn?
The program what?
It's an app. It's called Acorn.
No, I'm not.
All right. So how Acorn works, and it's similar to this, is let's say you buy something for $1.75. What it does is it rounds it up to the nearest dollar. So that's 25 cents. That 25 cents goes and you invest it and it grows things forward, while you just spent what was within that particular transaction. For a fiscal year is the transaction that we're talking about. So at the end of the year, it just rounds it up to whatever was budgeted for that fiscal year and moves it to an investment fund for large projects.
Yes, I get it. But my question is, why are we not doing the things that need to be done and have needed to be done for the last 2 or 3 months?
It's not saying things aren't being done. It's just saying if there's anything left over, it'll move over. There's a number of departments that have, funds that weren't spent for various reasons. Either we over budgeted and for that.
Let's say the worst case scenario, we spend all our money on mowing and we're out of money in June. Then we have to go to the board and ask for a budget adjustment. So it's probably not a good idea right now to spend that $800 or do. I understand what you're saying, but Joe is also trying to say, we've got the money in the next fiscal year. We're working on a checklist as item E that we're going to try and do between now and the end of this fiscal year. So in our July meeting, we will have a list of projects that we can start on right away. So it seems reasonable to just vote on this and say, we don't know how much money is going to be left, but let's transfer what we have left into the Parks Project Fund. And worst case scenario, we get down to next fiscal year and we do run out of money, just like Griffin did when we had the unexpected expense of the repair of the bridge over by the firehouse. Then we got a budget amendment. So it's not like once we run out of money, we have to stop. There is some flexibility in it. So it just seems like this is a reasonable approach. We could go back and forth on this, all night. But again, I support Dana's motion to vote on this transfer of funds.
I didn't actually motion, Jim. I was just having discussion, but
Okay.
but I hear what Lori's saying. If there's things that we say in our need to get addressed at the dog park, maybe we could present a list of those things and just say, here's what they are. Can Joe get prices to fix them, and we'll get them fixed. But I don't see any harm in asking, right? Would be a request to the board. Would the township board have to approve it if we request it? to
Yeah,
be able to do
so
that?
what would come in the end of year budget amendments, when I do it, I would write it in to a transfer from one account to another, noting where it came from and where it went. So it's really just a formality of an ask. And it just kind of, that way, I'm not, because right now, if, yes, I could make the request, it just looks best if the park commission wants to make that request. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think we need to separate this from if we feel like things aren't getting done that need to get done. This, in my mind, this is separate. So I would motion to request that any funds not used in the Parks Department be transferred to the Parks Capital Project Fund. So that is my motion that I would make
Okay, and
or did make.
okay. Okay, then let's vote on that.
Jim, do you want a second?
Oh, I second it.
Okay, there you go. Now you can vote.
Okay. Jim, I vote yes. If the money could be 1,000 or 0, but I would vote yes to transfer any leftover money to 408. Dana,
Yes.
Lori,
So long as those things that need to be taken care of immediately are taken care of and this money is extra, I'm fine with this, yes. But I don't want to keep leaving things languishing.
well, I mean, we continue to do the normal maintenance that we would do. So I guess it's just a matter of just use the donation dog lock to going to Joe and say, can we get a locksmith to fix it? And if a locksmith looks at it and says it can't be fixed, then we buy a new one. But we can just do that as a normal course of business. We don't have to do that have to wait until our next meeting. It just seems like it's our regular maintenance items. And
I am going, since we're talking about the dog donation, I just want to let you know that I was going to mention it in my report to you about some thoughts on it. So.
okay, so we'll get an update a little later. So we have Lori, have you voted? You voted yes, I believe.
Sure, I think a capital fund is a good idea,
Okay,
but not at the expense of things that really are needing to be done 2 months ago.
okay. Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, the Park Commission Secretary, Joe and I were just talking about that. I explained how we just do this in alphabetical order, and that's worked okay because we have not had anybody that really wants to do it full time, to be honest. So that's where we are. I don't have anything else to add to that. Okay, the next item is the garbage cans. What happened, I went to River Bluff a few days ago or a week ago or something like that, and the garbage can was overflowing. I stopped and told Joe about it and explained how that's been an ongoing problem with people putting household waste there. He brought up the idea of an additional garbage can, and I'll let Joe explain the motion.
So Jim brought it up and we got talking, and I thought it would be a good idea to look at all our parks and see, do we need garbage cans? Where do they need to be? And then to have some more permanent ones, like actual park, professional grade park garbage cans. I thought it would be good for would be, a good recommendation for Jim and Lori to look to see which ones would match with the themes and what you guys have going on forward. So it was just a discussion item for the park commission.
I don't have any problem with that. Just taking a look at the garbage cans, I guess. And that could be added to our checklist, the next item. Does anybody have any additional comments about the idea of reviewing how we manage our garbage, I guess?
I don't know. Go ahead, Dan, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I think trash service at the appropriate locations is an essential parks function. I mean, we have the can right at the dog park, so we have trash service there. And as I understand it, our service provider will just come roll that up and pick it up, right? So we've never really had an issue there, other than it just looks like a roadside can. And at River Bluff, I know there's been an issue in the past, and I'm really happy that we have a trash can there. I'm always curious when we report that it's full and overflowing, if it is truly household waste in there. I haven't seen it myself, or if it's just the fact that it's highly used. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to continue to look at that as we provide that service. We definitely have to continue trash service at River Bluff. There's a lot of people just pull in there and eat lunch, sit, look at the river, and then they throw their trash in the trash can, which is what they're supposed to do there. So, I don't know if it's a matter of emptying it more or getting another one that we put closer to the, I think we should look at it.
How
Okay.
frequently is it emptied at River Bluff? Do we know?
So I believe Glenn empties it once a week, and with COVID, more people are going to the park, so it gets filled quicker. But also, it's so far away from the parking lot, it just creates a lack of availability, because you have to walk so far. And so that was one of the thoughts, is maybe we get another one that's closer to the parking lot, so people can put it away when they're visiting the park, and different spots in the park, so that people don't have to carry it so far. But it was just a conversation.
Well, and maybe just to throw an idea out there, I mean, maybe by the parking lot, we can build just a small wooden screened enclosure and have a roll-off yard cart there that, the service provider can pick up, and maybe that would help. We rely on Glenn to empty it when he's there mowing. And so maybe, that would just help improve the overall level of service, where there'd be a yard cart close to the parking lot, and it would give Glenn a place to put, when he empties the bag. So maybe that's just something we want to talk to our service provider about, see what it would cost to put a yard cart there, and then we could do a little Boy Scout project or something to build an enclosure. Just an idea.
Well, there's something to think about. If you don't want people to have to carry stuff too far, if you're picnicking at the picnic tables, do you really want to have to pack everything up and take it to the parking lot, or do you want to just walk over to the garbage can that's there, unless it's too much of a hassle for the carrier, the provider, to pick it up all that way in? But I certainly don't want to encourage people bringing in a lot of garbage into the woods, and nobody's leaving garbage there now. So I don't want to encourage having to have pickup way back in there. That's going to cause problems with uneven trails and things that are enjoyed because they are naturalized and not widened, and not it's a space that's what's the word I'm looking for? Well, naturalized will do for now, but it just seems that if you're picnicking, you're really going to be having more garbage at the spot that you want to offload, rather than carrying it back to the parking lot. But
Well, we'd have two cans, I think. This trash at River Bluff has been an issue since I've been on the park commission. There was a can there. They took the can away because folks were dumping it, dumping other stuff or dumping the can. And so on and so forth. There's probably no perfect solution, so I guess we just have to try a couple different things.
I kind of like Dana's idea about adding another whatever, like a place where you can put the wheel card out so they can pick it up, the carrier can pick it up. But other garbage cans that are designed where you can't like shove a whole garbage bag down there, like from household waste. Like when I think about garbage cans around Holland or something, they're like a circular garbage can with kind of like another circle on top of it where there's a hole, so you can't put massive things in there. I don't know how much that would even cost, but
We
just
do have some professional grade park magazines, and I know some other companies that do provide it, so we can look at it, and I can provide that if you guys want to look and see how much they are, so that as we go forward with creating, things that you guys want to provide in upcoming budgets and projects, that you guys know how much it is and how many you want, and you can budget accordingly. If you guys want that, I have it in the office.
Okay. Any other comments?
So if
Okay.
you guys want to keep talking
I
about
guess
it later,
I have one more question about the garbage. I mean, do we really know how often it does get emptied? Because I've been out there a lot lately and it's been full like every time I'm there.
currently it gets cleaned at least once a week.
Okay.
And then Glenn does go out there, when he can. And I don't think he charges for it. He just kind of does it. So,
Yeah, okay, well.
Hey, Joe,
Yep.
sorry, this is Dana. Could you just call our service provider, whoever does trash at the dog park, and see what they would charge us a year to put a roll-off cart, like another yard cart at River Bluff, and just so we know
just to
that?
get it. Yeah, I can ask, and I can, if you guys are fine, at your next meeting, I can put kind of memo of like, here's kind of an estimated with some pictures of some garbage cans, so that you guys can kind of get some more info and to look at for discussion.
I mean, I've got a bigger thing than the dog park, and I think mine is like 65, 70 bucks a quarter, so it's not a big expense, and they give you the can free. Some of those cans, like Andy mentioned, they're $500 to $800, I think. Those heavy duty ones that I've seen in those catalogs, so. Anyway. Okay, well, it sounds like we have some work to do on the garbage. Any other comments on the garbage cans? The park, the checklist. Andy and Joe have to get together. We have a paper checklist. I think everybody's familiar with it. I won't go into it, but we were talking about, can we put it online? And we got bogged down on the various different kinds of software and how compatible it was and so on and so forth. So my thought was, if we can get this done by our June meeting, then between our June meeting and our July meeting, we could do our review of the parks, which is an item later on. But so I guess the question is, Joe and Andy, can you guys come up with a plan to get that checklist going?
Yeah, it's just getting our schedules to work. The hard part is we kind of work the same schedule.
Yeah. Andy, if you want to send me the checklist that you have now, I can look at it.
Okay, do you have a Google, like even just a generic Google account that I can share it with so you can kind of just look at it? Like, is that okay to use?
Yeah, I'll send you the generic list, and then the township just got Teams, and every member will be getting access to that. had a snafu with the IT company. But you guys can drop it in there through your account and
Okay.
then access it. And I can go.
So now,
Yeah.
because what I have right now, it's a Google Doc. So I just don't know what the compatibility is for whatever you're going to allow us to drop in.
Oh, so within the thing, yeah, we can talk about it. I'll give you a call. Are you free tomorrow?
Yeah, you can call me at any time at the school, except
Oh,
for except for between, I'd say 10:45 and noon. That's like the hardest part.
okay.
Any other time I can talk.
Okay. Are you at which school?
Saugatuck High School.
Okay.
That's where I'm currently at, by the way. I know I'm supposed to announce that, but I'm late.
All right. I'll give you a call tomorrow. We can chat.
Okay.
about it.
Perfect.
All right. Cool.
Okay. The next item is the manager's report. You want to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah. So just a couple highlights for you all. And updates. The Blue Star Trail Bridge is repaired and ready to go. People can now bike on it or walk on it, so that's good. The grass, I haven't looked to see if it started to sprout, but there's a nice blanket so erosion doesn't occur. Get into that little creek there. The dog park drive has been regraded. Oh, the Blue Star Trail, I just want to let you know that the township board did approve the engineering draft agreements to finalize it. So what will be happening now is we'll be finalizing those agreements between the three municipalities and the Friends. And on Friday, there will be the kickoff for the engineering. So in this phase, we'll be just looking at where it's going to go, how is it going to look, and then we will start, I believe the engineers will start looking at grants for the program to fund it. And then construction will start to happen later down the road. But there will be another set of agreements for that. The donation box, I think Lori let me know that it was broken. I did have Glenn go look at it to see if it would be an easy fix. And I went and looked at it. He said that he wouldn't be able to. I took some pictures and I want to talk because it's handmade and the lock is a deadbolt type of lock. And I want to see how easy it would be for a colleague of mine if I took it off and got it fixed so we can put it back up because it's nice. Unless you guys wanted a brand new one, it's up to you. And then the spigots at the dog park have been having some issues. So Jim and I think Lori called the office too about it. We did send out the plumber to check it out. When I was out there looking at the donation box, it was having some issues. So I turned the water off and it fixed it. But the plumber should be going out there. There is a possible suspicion that the reason why it was bubbling is because of the water lines were being flushed by Cow Lake, and that could have been the reason why. So we'll be looking into that. And I think that's it. Any questions? Oh, and then the park plan priority list. I just want to let you know that I'll be sending out kind of a paper for you guys to kind of fill out to help facilitate the priority list. So you guys can write it and mark it up, and then I'll compile it and put it into a sheet so that you guys can rank them and then discuss them. So I just want to let you know to help facilitate that priority list, and then also looking at some maintenance stuff long term. So I have a routine maintenance list so I can make sure that those things get budgeted for and then paid for as we go forward. Any questions?
I had one quick comment on the River Bluff Shoreline Restoration Project. I believe one of those things that Dana sent out, they're taking public comments through May 14th. I think Dana dropped off maybe. So if we want to make public comments about that, I'll forward the email to everybody so we could add comments about that, because it would certainly be a great deal if we could get a portion of that 24 million to fix up the riverfront at River Bluff.
If you would like, on the township web page under news, there's kind of, it's called Natural Resource Press Release Public Notice. If you click on it, it goes to a PDF and kind of has the link for the DEQ, Natural Resource Trustees, and you can click on it or copy that link, and it'll give you more information on how to comment to them,
Okay,
just to let you know how you can find it.
okay. Okay, so the next item in the agenda is the commissioner's report. I guess I'll go last, so we'll start with Lori. Do you have anything additional that you would like to talk about? Or anything, any comments or whatever?
Andy, since you weren't on, I read a piece about the brush hogging, but I also made several suggestions in there about that could affect the checklist. I sent a copy of the letter I wrote to you so you can kind of see, and I just would like to suggest that we look at which things we can designate as regularly scheduled kinds of things that we don't need to focus attention on, but they're determined that need to happen, or determined to need to be happening at a certain increment. And we could just delegate that responsibility for Joe to call people when these things are necessary to be done on a schedule versus, and when it's already bad, like the driveway at the dog park or something. So I don't really have anything additional to add other than what I've already suggested.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look. I saw it on my email just as I was logging in.
Yeah, no, I just sent it out after I read it. So you wouldn't have had a chance to see it much earlier. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I have two items. The first one is I would like to move the meeting for June to Monday, June 7th, and make it an indoor or at the township hall. Is everyone okay with that date?
I thought you were going to try and make it at a particular location.
Well, at the township hall, yeah.
No, like a park.
Oh, well, it would be inconvenient based on the next thing I'm going to say. I'll say the next thing. We have in this getting ready for that little presentation I did for the Planning Commission. I went through some of the stuff that Lori Babinski had collected and found the bylaws for the Park Commission that were written in 1974. And so I had talked to Joe about this, and what I recommend is that in our June meeting, that we have an in-person meeting and we go through these bylaws, and then between June and July, we revise them, update them, do what's necessary to bring them up to date, so we all have a little more clearer understanding of our responsibilities and so forth. So those two items. So the key, I guess, is the reason I wanted to move it. I won't be here. I'll be out of town on June 2nd or 3rd or whenever that Monday or Wednesday in June is. So the 7th is the following Monday.
The 7th works for me. I'm still in school, so I'm not going anywhere. That's the last week of school, so June 7th works for me.
Okay, it will work, and it will work for Dana. The only thing Dana said would be he could do it at 5:30, but he has to leave at 7. So could you make it at 5:30?
I can, yeah.
Okay, how about you, Lori?
Yeah, I can.
And Joe said it's okay. So we'll do that. I'll ask Joe to, we have to make a public announcement when we change our meeting date.
Can you, Jim, just to make it kind of more formal, can you, someone make a motion for that and then vote on it?
I make a motion that we move the June meeting to June 7th at the Township Hall, beginning at 5:30 PM in the evening.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we'd have to do a voice vote, and Andy, you missed that part. So Jim, I'll vote yes. Lori,
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carried.
And I don't know if it's too late for the vote earlier, because I don't know if you knew I was on, but I'll just abstain because I jumped in late.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we didn't know you were on. This is on the other vote for the brush hogging or no. and
Yeah.
And we also voted on the year-end transfer of fund. Okay. That's all I have. So we have an opportunity for public comments. We have a couple people here. Denise. would
Denise
you like to
Shipley.
comment, or-
Hi, yeah, thank you. Denise Shipley. I'm in Saugatuck Township. I know I want to make it quick, so I appreciate all your time, especially given that it's volunteer. I really appreciate it. So I gotta speak on a couple things. I always do. I can't miss the opportunity. And as you went on, I found more and more things to talk about, so I'm gonna go fast here. Utilitarian use, no brush hogging, thank you. The park is a utilitarian use. Pretty is great, but I agree that things need to happen. It's getting more and more use, which brings me to my next point. Growth, we're growing, everything's gonna have more and more use. We have to put money into garbage. It's just one of the things that I firmly believe, even if people fly dump, even if people take advantage of the garbage situation, my thoughts are better fly dumping into a garbage can than along our roadsides or other areas. So my vote would always be to put a little bit more money into garbage receptacles. The donation box, that's really interesting. I just know that my kids don't have cash ever, and they take my dogs to the park. I don't know, I haven't been there, I haven't seen the signs. I don't know if there's QR codes or whatever they're Venmoing type money these days, but it might be just a thought. I think you could simply put a code where I could hold my camera to it and transact a quick donation versus putting a lot of money into donation boxes that might just keep getting thieved. Let me move on. Thank you for your time. I think we need a volunteer coordinator. I think a lot of what's going on, if we had a volunteer coordinator, I think people, I don't know, I have to think that maybe we could do better for our township with promoting more volunteers. I'm new to this. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but I gotta think with some kind of volunteer coordinator, we could make really great things happen. I saw the hazardous waste thing happen recently. Amazing. Volunteers help make that happen. And as far as your Parks Commission, I keep hearing things tonight that bring us back to the board. I can't help think that maybe you need a liaison to the board. Everything, whether it's your budget, whether it's your bylaws, whether it's your, the importance of the park in our community, especially. I think it's the socioeconomic, whether it's budget, whether it's our environment, whatever we're talking, the park seems to be all aspects of our township. And I just think it needs to be really, really represented. I appreciate we are starting subcommittees as part of the planning commission. And I appreciate that we can bridge and connect in a lot of our committees. But gosh, this whole quorum making it difficult for me to help do my job because I can only talk to so many of you and meet so many of you all in one place at one time. Adding COVID, gosh, we're up against a lot of difficulties. So I would like to advocate for the Parks Commission to have a liaison, more liaison. I don't know the bylaws. I don't know the rules of all of that, but I got to think that somebody on the board would maybe help liaison with a position or something. However that's structured in the township laws. I would advocate just sitting through a couple meetings. I feel your connection to so many parts of the township. Really, you should have a liaison. That's what I've got. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before COVID, I would try and go to all the board meetings, but since we won't,
So hard.
I don't go, yeah.
Yeah, maybe an official liaison to somebody. I just think webbing more people together. There's only so much that as volunteers we should be expected to digest and read, and simple things like, hey, John, how many chickens am I allowed to have? And everybody knows a little bit of something, and just I have enjoyed connecting people and resources to the commission I'm currently on, and I'm hopefully doing that with the ZBA also. So however we can create a transparent network where everybody can kind of, I don't know, but I appreciate work. And again, thank you for your time.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? I see Richard still here.
I'm still here. Thank you. I have nothing to add, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I guess that concludes our meeting. We've got a couple follow-up things to do. I'll talk to Joe. I appreciate the comment on the garbage from Denise. She had some good points. So let's
I'd
adjourn.
just like to, before you adjourn, I'd just like to respond to the donation box. There are very few young people that come, and there are many, many, many people putting 20s and 10s and so forth in there. It is a very useful thing. It was a gift probably from somebody who gave it when it was first, when the park was first created. So it's, it's a nice thing. To turn everything into electronic zipping and zapping, maybe down the road, but most people that go out there are older than me, and some with young, well, not so many young kids. It's mostly, 40s, 50s and on.
That's fair. That's fair. I appreciate that comment. And actually, that's why you're exactly right. That's why I appreciate linking people together, because that's not something my kids go out or my husband takes the dogs out. I'm fortunate to have a big fenced in yard. I stay home with the dogs, but they go out there. And so those things I don't know. So I really appreciate just hearing that kind of thing. I think that the more the more people that are interested, the more voices will help us all out. So thank you. Thanks for your comments.
Okay. Anything else? Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay, then we'll adjourn the meeting. It's 7:12. And thank you very much.